Welcome back to the Enlightened Misfits podcast. I am your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I have Diana. She is a priestess and intuitive energy coach. Welcome, Diana. I'm so happy to have you here with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here chatting with you.
Of course. So today we're going to talk about, I feel like a little bit of it, like a variable topics, mainly human design. She'll go into a little bit more, not too much in depth with human design, but how do you feel like human design can impact maybe energy healing or helping others overcome trauma with your clients?
Ooh, that's such a great question, actually. Oh my gosh. So I truly believe that, with human design, I may kind of go all over the place. I might kind of deviate from the question, but, with understanding about energy, and I'm also an energy healer and I have studied on energy. And the way I see it is human design really helps you to understand like who you are on an energetic level and like how you're meant to show up in energetic alignment. It has helped me so much when I started diving down the rabbit hole of it, if you will, in validating myself and realizing that I'm not a generator and I'm not a manifesting generator. And so I truly believe with understanding that and who you are on an energetic level and utilizing energy healing, which has also been so impactful for me in my journey in helping me to release my traumas and my past. I truly believe that human design is, collaborating the two or utilizing the two in your journey and, removing the in the world of energy healing, we also call it like filaments, like in your hologram or like in your energetic, right? In your energy levels
Yeah.
and your energy blueprint. And so utilizing human design and saying, okay, like this is who I am. And so like, let's say, for example, I'm a manifester. I'm a 2-4 emotional manifestors. And we're only between 7 to 9% of the population. And for us growing up, I know that there's a lot of trauma for us having a lot of anger because we're, as children, our parents are, what I've read is that they're unconsciously scared of us. And so they try to control us. And so we're a lot of manifestors, me personally as well. Like I've grown up to be, you go into two different responses, with trauma when you're trying to be, when you're controlled. And for me, it came from a state of, almost like fawning, people pleasing. And so for me to recognizing that I'm a manifester and utilizing energy healing and helping me to heal my trauma, I mean, has just been so freaking amazing. I don't know if that answers your question,
Yeah.
but that's
No,
kind of how I've come to be here.
yeah. I was going to say, yeah, I was going to ask you a little bit about your story when you found human design, but you kind of, you kind of answered that. But
Mhm.
yeah, I definitely can resonate with the anger because I'm not a manifester, I'm a projector, but still I see my anger come up, especially because my daughter, she's 4.5, going to be 5. The way that she responds to anger or her behavior when she gets angry reminds me of myself, except for having her talk about it versus, suppress it. Or I'm asking her, why do you feel angry? And she's like, I am angry. So I'm not placing that shame on it, but I just feel like emotionally, any authority, especially like our generation or, the generations that are coming, that I feel like emotions are really important, because if not, you're going to be constantly in the not self theme. I actually see it a lot, literally current day now. Like people are disappointed, what's going on in the world. We don't need to talk about that, but I'm just, what I'm talking about. They're disappointed, they're angry, they're bitter. And I'm looking at it, me being a projector, I'm like, if everybody just focuses on how they can create abundance, happiness, all the things in their own life, aligning with their human design, I feel like people learning human design in this moment, I feel like could really change the trajectory on what goes on in the world with like new earth coming and, ascension and all that stuff. I feel like that is, would you agree?
Oh, completely. And especially now, like through my own studies, learning about collective consciousness
Yeah.
and like how we're being is impacting the collective. And so, yes, I truly believe that it's so important that we focus within ourselves and to truly honor how we're feeling and, of course, processing it and coming up to a new, I like to say, like energetic set point, right? Into a new
Yeah.
energetic way of being. So we can continue to raise the collective consciousness. in the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially when Pluto goes in Aquarius, like
Yeah.
next week or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, can you kind of share with the listeners like what the pivotal moment was in your journey that led you to like the true meaning of your energy, money, prosperity, and what you do right now with your clients?
Oh, wow. So the big pivotal moment for me was after my awakening. So I had my spiritual awakening. I know a lot of people had an awakening in 2019.
Mhm.
I was one of those people, and it was when I decided to see things differently, or when I was able to see through like a different lens. It was like the reality was still there, but I could see things differently. And it was then when I decided to, um, again, seeing things differently and also hearing differently about money. And I know money is a trigger like no other, especially, for me, I grew up in a childhood, so much lack and scarcity. I was raised by an immigrant mother and so much lack and scarcity. And so for me, on my own journey of learning about this, I've been able to see a different lens of this. And it's amazing, of how we've been, a lot of people are in, I'll say, I'm going to use the word poverty consciousness, and I'm encouraging for anyone that is listening, that wants more money, right? Wants more abundance, more prosperity. The only way that you're going to be able to call more of it in, this is also what I tell my clients, is that you have to be willing to sit in the discomfort, being willing to sit in that energy that, I used to have, which was so much hatred and so much like very negative energy towards money and towards people who had money. And the only way you're going to be able to get to the other side is by sitting through those triggers, by sitting through the uncomfortableness. And so through this journey now, I'm just starting to come out and speak on it. Actually, I was kind of in the closet, honestly. I teach it to my clients, but now to come out publicly and to start to host workshops and create programs and create content really in my business to talk about. I'm going to have it. I know we're on a podcast, but I have this fake money here, that I constantly
Real.
hold. Yeah, it's like, hey, like this is a real, right? Because it's also energy. And so to answer your question, like for me was going through my own journey and saying, okay, I want more of it. What do I have to do to get it? So sitting through the triggers, investing in myself, reading books and just being willing to see a different side, being willing to listen to a different perspective is what's been able to help me on my journey.
I love that. And especially when you said be able to sit with it, I think in my, even now when, like I'm going to like the next level or I'm doing something with a client, I often feel like, just say if somebody's like coaching program is like $5,000 to me, I'm like, oh, I wish I could do that, but I don't talk like that now. But I look at it from a different, like I ask for it. One, I ask universe, spirit guide, whoever you believe in, like I always say ask for it, and if you want that and you desire that, you can get that, right? So it's like now, I realize that people that aren't ready to invest in themselves, like you said, maybe that you don't have $5,000 to pay somebody. That's okay. Like if you pay $100 a month or $200 a month. It's like if you don't, I often tell my boyfriend this too, because being an entrepreneur, I was like, it's a really risky thing. You have to put out a lot of money in order to get back that money in clients or, other things or whatever. But I also do had a lot. I still feel like I have money blocks here and there. I had a huge money wound, I had a huge witch wound with my throat and all that past life stuff. You know what I mean? So it's like, money even now I watch my mom, she'll say different stuff and I'm like, Mom, why don't you say it this way? And it feels different. And I feel like, if you say I can't afford that, that feels different than I can't afford that right now. Or I have to, like it's like the way I kind of changed the way that I look at money. I always looked at it, I feel like, as an energy, but that also got me. If I had $10,000, $20,000, I didn't spend it the way that I should have. And then I was back in the same place of like, why do I have all this debt? Why do I have to pay on my credit card? All that stuff. So it's like, it can go, I feel like either way, like not having a lot of money, but I didn't come from money. I've always had to earn my own money. And then, I had a lot of money, and then I'm not saying I'm the like richest coach, but I'm not the poorest, mentor either. So it's like, but I realized that it doesn't matter. I still was either, had anxiety or depressed on one spectrum, the same thing on the other. So it's not like people think that if they have a lot of money, it's going to make them happy, and it's not. Like it helps, you can do more things, but it doesn't change. Do you notice that with your clients too?
Yes. Oh my gosh, so much. And I've noticed for them as well in, my teachings with them, it's like you create your reality and
Hmm.
understanding that we all have different energetic set points around money, in calling it in holding it and keeping it and saving it and spending it. And for them just to starting to change their relationship with money is really what I've been doing with my clients, is having them see the relationship they have right now where there's so much fear, there's so much avoidance in money. And I'm like, this is exactly why we can't call more of it in, because we're not treating it like a friend. We're not treating it the way with respect, And so with my clients and through this journey and them starting to see like their own money wounds and even like past life wounds, like you said, the witch wound,
Hmm.
and also having and I'll be honest, and I think for a lot of your listeners here, and I know for you and I, we are the different ones in our family, and
Yeah.
also being comfortable, um, being around your family or your friends and having a different way of viewing money and a different perspective on it. That's what I've had to do also with my family. And when I'm around them, I hear the lack, I hear the scarcity, I hear the even like because I'm the entrepreneur in my family, so it's like don't take all those risks, play it safe. And I'm all about of course not saying doing all crazy stuff, but investing in myself and taking risks because
Yeah.
the outcome, right, is to help me eventually to create this life of um, freedom. And it's not like you said, it's not just about the money. It's like it's the feeling that you're going to get, right? It's the
Yeah.
feeling of the freedom of just creating this life. So that's what I've been teaching my clients in this journey.
Yeah. I was going to say, I definitely, I hear like my aunts, my uncles, my mom and my dad, they've obviously watched me. They thought I was crazy leaving my very successful 9 to 5. I
Yeah.
worked in the healthcare field. I
Yeah.
made decent money. I really did. I can't say that I did. Like it was, sure, I could have probably made more, but I've always had some type of like doing MLNs or like some extra money stream of income. That's just how it's literally in my human design. It's just how I'm built. I always know how I could sell a piece of paper, like a blank piece of paper. I could probably sell it to somebody, like it's just, I always
Yeah.
had that way of marketing, I should say. And I realized that's what, when I like kind of applied that to my money, like healing my money trauma. And then also, like in business and messaging. And it always comes down to how you speak. So it's like, I see these people, it's like, do you want to buy this for me or that for me? It's like, why don't you tell them how, like, what are they going to get from this? Like, if you're telling me that, like for instance, you help people with with their money trauma, that actually is something that people don't even realize they need help with, but it does, it's what sells, like. And I feel like when you talk about family too, it's, I try to help, not, I don't push on it, I don't, some, they're not going to change, but I feel like the way that I kind of say, well, say it this way or say it that way, I feel like my mom has a little bit better of an understanding about money and why I do the things I do. My aunts and uncles and cousins probably still think I'm crazy, but I live a different life than they do. And it's like they always say, I wish I had your life. Why? Why can't you just figure out how to live, like do what I do and see if it works? And if it doesn't, it doesn't. So I often think that it's just, sometimes people just don't have the drive, or it's just not their purpose. Like they're just supposed to be, maybe they're living a life that they just kind of float through. Like that's just not what I picked here for myself. Why? I don't know. Sometimes I'm like, why did I decide to pick this life?
I know, right?
And I
This lifetime.
yeah, I'm just like, this is so fun, but it's really not, people. The people are like, oh, healing's supposed to be fun. Well, like not all the time. Once you get through, the shadow period, or I don't think anybody has had a break lately. I mean, to be honest, it's like, all of us are kind of like, when is this coming? Right? Yeah. So
Right.
um, all right. So I do want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned about fears and blocks. I feel like that, a lot of people carry those deep-seated fears and blocks with them. So like what techniques or mindset do you recommend starting with if somebody is listening to this, and obviously they should go work with you, but if they maybe can't afford it, or maybe they just want to try it themselves, what kind of like techniques or mindset sets do you recommend?
Sure. So something that's been helping me on my journey of, ooh, I'm getting goosebumps as I'm talking about this because it is, it's that whole thing of understanding first, like creating the awareness of fear that it is false evidence appearing real. It's literally your mind trying to keep you safe. That's all it is. Because anything that is the unknown, that it does not know what it is, thinks you're going to go and you're going to die. And so my journey of this and, wanting to share this and getting my mind to understand that it's like, okay, I'm actually not going to die. And so mindset techniques is telling myself this, like, hey, this is what I need to go do. If it's going to help me to get to where I want to go, if it's going to help me to manifest, let's say something. Because also the other thing I want to add into a lot of things that we want to call into our life that we actually want, our minds and our body don't feel that it's safe. And so that's why we also can't call it in. And so me telling myself like, hey, me actually getting this or actually doing this, let's say this task, this goal, let's say even doing like a podcast interview. I know when I did my first one, I was terrified.
Yeah.
Am I actually going to die? And the answer was no. It's like, okay. So then the other technique is doing somatic practices. And so for me, I have found the emotional freedom technique, which is tapping on, I know you know what it is, but tapping on your meridian points while saying affirmations is a great way to discharge a lot of that energy. Another thing for me, I know on my social media, like if you see me, I go live, but I'll be honest, every single time I go live, I still have to do this. I still have to shake my body. I have to get up and I have to just shake and just move my entire body around and just tell myself the mindset of like, okay, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, right? And then, I do a countdown. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, boom, and I hit the go live button, and then I'm on, and then I just float, that way. So
Yeah.
that's something that's been helping me on
Yeah.
this journey.
I was gonna say, I have to be completely honest. I still get kind of nervous starting podcasts. I mean,
Oh yeah.
I feel like if a host tells you she's not nervous or he's not nervous, I don't know if they're telling the truth, because I feel like if I'm sitting here working or doing different things for clients, and then I realize I have to have a podcast recording, I usually have to get up, and I love somatic workouts, like, or like exercises, or I do that too, because I don't have sacral, you don't have sacral energy
Yeah.
either. I don't either. So if there's a day that I just maybe need to rest, but I have to record this podcast, I have to get energy over my daughter's home, or I can steer some of her, sacral energy or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely understand and agree with, if you're like overthinking, I always tell people, if you're overthinking, push that down to your sacral or your root or something like that. And people are like, what do you mean? I'm like, you can transfer it. So you could just get done what you need to get done, and then, move on or whatever. So yeah, I love that. Thank you for that tip. I feel like if they don't already do that, maybe that will be the reminder to
Yes.
do that.
Yes. And it just takes practice, and like the other thing too is going outside of your comfort zone. The more that you do it in the very beginning, it's terrifying, but the more and more you practice it, like the more and more you're like, okay, that was actually not that bad. And then you actually shift. And I'm so excited that I'm actually here talking about this because I used to be the other person that was terrified. But now I'm like, okay, what else can I go and do? And then you start to build this other momentum. And the next thing you know, you're going to be so surprised at what you've been doing. And that also raises your level of self trust, raises your level of, oh my gosh, like I'm going to go and do more scary things.
Yeah. So do you feel like self-awareness plays a huge part in this as well?
Oh, 100%. That's the
Yeah.
only way that you're really going to be able to get to the side. And I truly believe too, and not to say like anyone that works 9 to 5 that you can't do this, but the journey of entrepreneurship, I mean, golly, it literally has you. I mean, I feel like it's like the biggest journey of personal development I've ever been on, because you have to look at yourself and it's like, well, why am I not taking action? Well, it's because I have this belief system of da 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 da, and like you have to do your own work to shift out of it, right? So I
Yeah.
truly believe that self awareness through anything is going to help you. And if you can just make, I learned this from Tony Robbins, with anything, just making a 2 millimeter shift in anything, it's just going to help you with creating that momentum and moving forward in what you're wanting.
Yeah. I always joke and say that it's just really expensive personal development.
Yeah, it is.
Because it can be. It could be, you're just doing all this stuff and you're like, okay, all right, now what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, definitely. I definitely understand that. So, what are some misconceptions around? Do you feel like around poverty? The poverty consciousness or prosperity consciousness, and how do you kind of help? How could you kind of help people like that are listening understand that's a little bit deeper?
Yeah. So this is actually one of my favorite topics to talk about. So first, I'm going to start with the prosperity consciousness, and understanding that that's actually our natural state. We're actually meant to be prosperous. That's the way that we were, I guess, designed to be in this reality. However, it is through, centuries ago, there was a way of teaching where, from what I've, through my own studies, what I've learned is that, poverty consciousness was taught, to the masses centuries ago, because it's a way to keep you from disempowered, and to have you not well resourced. Because imagine if you had, and back then they didn't have the money that we have today. They had different forms of money. They had different tender, right? And so whatever that tender was back then, let's say if it was like a goat or a sheep, right, or
Right.
gold or something, right? If you had a belief, right, a way of thinking, a belief system of saying, okay, there's not enough, right, or that it's evil, it's dirty, it's greedy, right, then you're not going to be well resourced. You're not going to be able to do the things to really help the planet, to really help people. And so it kind of keeps you stuck in a different energy. And what I've been learning is this whole way of being and learning, and of course, like being willing to see a different side of things. And I'm going to weave in now kind of like part of like the manifestation, right? It's like, okay, if we want to call more money in, well, guess what? You also have to believe right here in the present moment. You have to be an energetic match to it, right? And believe that you can have it, or speaking to existence, like all the things, right? You know about manifestation. And so, what I've been noticing, with people is in this planet right now, in this reality, is that people are living this old lie, living this old way of thinking, and they're perpetuating their realities. They keep creating. I share this because I know I may get some hate on this, or I don't want to speak that into existence, but you know what I mean. Some people may disagree with me, but they're, understanding like, quantum physics, right? They're
Yeah.
literally creating more of what they don't want by focusing on I don't have enough.
Right.
And so I truly believe, if you can just shift your thinking, and of course empower yourself, or read the books. I have plenty of books, plenty of resources that I can share, that will help you see a different side, a different way of this. And so when you can come, just imagine right now. I want to wrap this up by saying, just imagine if you literally had a belief system where the money always came. Whatever you needed, the money, the resources always came. Imagine your life, the the things that you could do, the way that it could change your reality right now, that you would go and you'd be able to create, versus being in survival mode. You know what I mean? And so if you can just shift your way of thinking and saying, okay, I'm actually going to now see a different side of money, I can go and I can be safe with it. And I actually want to create this relationship with it, because now I can, help more people. And I recently held a workshop on prosperity consciousness, helping people to step into prosperity consciousness. And I literally had a stack of, fake money, and I handed it to every single participant. I said, pretend you have $10,000 right now. I'm handing you $10,000. What are you going to go do with it? And every single participant told me, I'm going to do something for somebody. It was always, brother, an aunt, my daughter. The money always was going to go to somebody else. and this is where I was like, do you see now how if you had more money, you literally, if you had more money, you were going to go do good things in the world. And I want people to know the true meaning because I want them to go use that money to go do good in the world. Because obviously we know people that in this reality right now, the collective consciousness has a different mindset on money. And it's the disparity, of who has money, who doesn't. It's right now, it's in the hands of people who don't have the best minds, the best heart, for people.
Yeah. Yeah, I do love that you had said that too. I actually just did a workshop about unleashing your wealth, and I feel like mine was based off of, kind of that similar. But one of the books that I love about manifestation is The Secret. I feel like I challenged The Secret and I experimented with it. I'm like, there's no way if I just say this and do this, that this is going to happen. So I did it and it just happened. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Obviously, it didn't just happen. Things are not like just miracle, miracles. That's why I always tell people, especially, with religion and man, that's all like man-made. So it's all like you have to go by this way. But I always tell people that even if you have one set of belief and don't believe the whole thing, just try to see if it, differently. And that's why I feel like human design, you don't have to believe any of it. You can
Yeah.
just experiment it. Like I always tell people, this is a blueprint for, like how you're supposed to operate. But if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it. Like it's just an experiment. It's not, it will change your life, but it also, you can continue to do what you're doing now. And that's also fine. Anything you decide, I always tell people it's fine. But if things are not working, why don't you try it this way? Same thing with like money. And you're saying like, money, that's the first thing that came to my mind. If you were to hand me $10,000, it wouldn't be to do something for myself. It would be like, how can I help somebody else afford, to work with me? Or maybe how can I give this to somebody that really needs it? Like maybe a single mom. I always resort to single moms that, are in abusive relationships. It's like I'm a huge advocate for domestic violence, so it's like, how can I give back to people? I used to always say, if I had millions of dollars, we wouldn't have so many homeless people on the street. We wouldn't have so many people that don't have support if they're going through addiction, all this stuff. It's like the wrong people it's like, why do the wrong people have all this money? But then I'm like, I guess that's what makes the world go round. So, who am I to say you can't have money? Right. Yeah. So, if somebody felt like overwhelmed by their trauma or maybe like scarcity beliefs, what would be like one step that you would say to them to help them align with their highest self or more abundant mindset?
Oh, yes, I can totally speak on that because I was there for most of my life, growing up in very much lack and scarcity. And let me tell you, when you're in lack and scarcity, your body is not at its best because you're literally like in survival mode.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, I know how exhausting it is. So the best thing I would encourage anyone that's listening to do is to shift your energy and your focus to gratitude. Because, and I'm going to be completely honest, I'm sure most of your listeners are probably here in the United States. I'm sure. I don't want to make assumptions, but I'm sure.
Most of them,
I
yeah.
mean,
You have some
most of
around
them.
the world. Yeah. Most of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, and so understanding the perspective that I've had to do my own work on shifting out of this, and showing so much gratitude that, we do have the resources, obviously, to listen to this podcast. Because more than likely, if you're listening to this podcast, you are someone that has access to food, electricity, water, a roof over your head. You have a bed to sleep at night. And when you can shift your energy to gratitude, because what I have noticed for myself in being on my own journey, from where I was on the other side before I came into this work, I didn't have as much gratitude for the things in my life. Not in just saying just with money, because it also, to call in also more money, we also need to show gratitude for the things in our life. And it starts with just the things that you have. Because money does show up in different ways. It could even be, the way that money could even come in to support you could even be someone like paying a meal for you, and like you showing gratitude versus, how I used to be like, I'll be honest, this is like before my awakening, for all my studies. I used to be very negative. I used to be very like, well, that wasn't what I wanted. You know what I mean?
I
And
feel like we
shifting.
all, I feel like we all here can agree
Yeah.
to when you're not awakened to that, you
Yeah.
don't know.
Mhm.
You have no awareness.
Yes,
Yeah, 100%.
exactly. So if you can shift continuously and write this down, not just like I'm going to walk around and being like, okay, I'm grateful for this. Like, no, creating a list every single day, write down at least 10 things that you're grateful for.
Yeah.
I mean, literally everything, the warm bed, the sheets, the water, like literally. And the more that you shift your focus, because if you understand about, through this whole journey, if you're in the beginning of the journey, you may not understand a lot of these things that I'm saying, but you're going to start to shift your focus because you have something called a reticular activating system, which actually works for you to help you bring more of what you're focused on. And here's the thing is that most people in the beginning of this journey, they're focused on the lack. They're focused on that there's not enough. And so if you're really wanting to shift out of this, and I'm going to use my own words and what I've had to do to get here was I was really ready. I literally had to claw my way out. That's the term I use because I was in my own internal hell, like that whole thing and that vibration. I
Yeah.
was literally in my own internal hell, and I literally had to claw my way out, come out, and this is how I did it. And it's through that journey of being kind of like obsessed and being like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I got to do to get out of here. And me, reading the books and listening to the podcast and listening to all the things to do whatever I had to do to get out of there. And now I've done the work for a few years, and now I'm so blessed that I did the work, and I'm so excited that it's not a way of being, you know.
Right. No, yeah. I can definitely resonate with everything that you were saying. Especially when I feel like I feel like all of us, not just me, I feel like you too, everybody listening, we're our own worst critic, we're our own worst enemy. It's like we try to blame everybody else because we just can't accept or, place the blame on ourselves just yet. But and sometimes I don't want to say it's not all of our fault. Like it's not always your fault. I feel like depending on whoever, if it's another person or, if it's a relationship or whatever, I feel like sometimes that projection could be, I usually say, how can I stop attracting this? Like, I used to, when I was finally by myself, not in a toxic relationship, my mom and dad often used to say to me, you know, why do you keep attracting these people that abuse you? Or, why do you, and I didn't really know how to answer that. Now I do know how to answer that. And it's because I wasn't aware that that is the level that I was vibrating at, that I just needed. And obviously it's not a bad thing. It's just a lesson I needed to learn, because now that's, when people ask me for advice or, people ask me like what I did, I could share my story and hope it empowers them to maybe do the same. So I definitely resonate when you say, your own personal hell, because that's literally what it feels like, literally.
Yeah.
How do I get out of this hole? There's like no, I can't. It's just constant until we realize that, oh, I got to do something different. Like I can't
Yeah.
keep doing this, right? Yeah. Awesome. I love this conversation. So where can people find you? And do you have any like workshops coming up? This should probably air in about 8 weeks. So do you have any like workshops people can look forward to, or should they just follow you on where can they find you?
Sure. So I'm on the social media platforms. I'm on Facebook, Instagram.
Okay.
I have TikTok and YouTube, but I'm not as active on TikTok and YouTube. I'm trying to do all the things. I'm not a generator, obviously, so I'm trying
Okay.
to,
Yeah.
how it is with human design. I've been learning. This has been my year of like resting and trying to learn about my energy. But
Yeah.
so I primarily hang out on Facebook. I also have a
Okay.
Facebook group named Intuitively Rewired. But to really get all of my information, I have a website. It
Okay.
is thedianakim.com. It's just my name because Diana Kim, oddly enough, is actually a very popular name.
Oh.
It's like a Joe Smith, but in the Asian world, it's like a Joe Smith. So
Oh, okay.
so they can find me there. And on my website, I announce, my workshops. I'm in San Antonio, Texas, in the United States, and I'm hosting a lot of in-person workshops. My energy in person, being a manifester,
Yeah.
it is very potent. I've noticed. So I'm doing a lot of in person. I also host things online as well. But if you follow me on Facebook as the Diana Kim, you'll find me, and that's where I announce and promote all of my things.
Awesome. I'll make sure all of those links are in the description box. So if you're listening to this, just go to the description box and you'll find all of that. Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's episode with Diana. If you like this episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. And maybe you share this episode that you feel that with somebody that will gain knowledge from listening. Stay tuned for more captivating conversations in the future. I hope you have an amazing rest of your week, and I will see you next time.